Hey, most people, me too, I hated it. And if you think your school was bad, I can top that, because my school was actually built by the Nazis. Ostmark-Schule opened in 1938 to celebrate the fact that Hitler's home country had decided to join the German Reich, Ostmark being the Nazi name for Austria. Now, Mr. Contest Chair, of course, I didn't know about this. I went to school in the 1980s, long after the war. Germany was technically still occupied by the Allied forces from the US, UK, and France. And in fact, despite of that, everybody was cool with the occupation because the US had sent Elvis Presley as one of their GIs to Germany to make the concept more popular. Germany had also turned into a democracy, obviously, but we were unaware of that. We were just kids going to school, and we didn't worry about Nazi buildings, but about regular kids' issues, like being bullied by the big boys. So, as anywhere, school had its horrors, but the most terrible experience for me at school was knitting. In the 1980s, the German syllabus provided for every kid to learn a number of handicraft skills at school. So boys and girls alike were required to take knitting classes. Now, the science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke once said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And that pretty much sums up my feelings about knitting. Let's just say I still have difficulties tying my shoelaces. Yet here I was asked to perform the miracle of knitting at the tender age of 6 in a school built by the Nazis. It was not going to happen. My ancient teacher, Frau Huber, did not prove to be much support either. Every time I had managed to cobble up a line of loops, she would find a mistake somewhere and undo it all. Extremely frustrating, but luckily for me, my mom remembered her own knitting training, so with her help, I was able to finish my assignment. As I grew up, I all but forgot about these traumatic experiences, although I never did learn how to knit. And only very recently did I realize how it all fit together. The Nazis, the Allied forces, and my own frustration at knitting. Think about the historical context. As I said, Western Germany was occupied by the Allied forces, and as the newly founded country went through a phase of re-education, obviously their first priority was to make sure the next generation of Germans would grow up as peaceful Democrats. So somebody must have figured that teaching boys how to knit would be a useful step along this way. So you can imagine what Hitler would have said about it. But the question I asked myself was, did they actually intend to teach us a peaceful skill, or did they plan to humiliate us? I'm sure I was not the only German boy who had his limitations exposed by knitting. And maybe the realization that I was unable to knit a straight row has quenched any thoughts about the superiority of my own country. So perhaps the idea was, from the beginning, to prevent us from turning into Nazis. Anyway, whether or not that's the case, it did actually work. So whatever you think about Germany nowadays, you have to admit that ever since the war we have been a peaceful and stable democracy in perhaps one of the most dramatic changes of any country in history, maybe up until Brexit. In fact, my generation may be actually too peaceful, as you saw this summer at the European Cup, when the mean big boys from France kicked us out of the continent. Anyway, I was able to take some consolation in the fact that my own suffering may indeed have been for the greater good. So while I was at knitting class, frustrated about my inability to get everything done, obviously I was really unhappy, but I still contributed in my own small way to this big transition of Germany to become a peaceful, prosperous democracy. So it was all for the good. And I want to finish tonight by thanking the Allied forces who made all of this possible in the first place. Thanks for your trust and support in my country. Thanks for helping us to leave the past behind. And ultimately, I guess, also thanks for knitting.